Hey everybody, Peach here, and today I have a fantastic DIY tutorial for you. I'm going to show you how to build a DIY hybrid padded utility seat with an integrated reverse hyperextension. Now, what this means is that you'll be able to use this device for all those utility seat uses along with all those reverse hyper uses. So, just to name some of the uses, here we go. All right, and now for the best part of the video, the step-by-step DIY tutorial. All right, step number one, we're gonna cut our 2x12 lumber, which I've already done here, to be exactly as long as the outside of this spotter arm to the outside of this spotter arm. Now, if you don't have spotter arms, you can also use flip-down safeties, or if you have safety straps or pinpipe safeties, you can still do this project, but rather than getting into all those details of the modifications you have to do, just go to designbuildlift.com for those details. So for me, my piece of 2x12 lumber is 47¼ inches long. All right, step number two. Now we're gonna cut two pieces of 2x4 that are 10¼ inches long because I want a 1/2 inch gap on this side and this side so that we can upholster later. So this is 11¼ inches wide, so these are 10¼ inches long. And these will go on the ends, and you'll be able to connect the unit to the holes in your flip-down safeties or your spotter arms. So to do so, just go ahead and clamp these on the bottom underneath, and then you can trace the hole with a pencil. You only need one hole, okay? And I have 1-inch holes on my safety spotter arms, so I used a 1-inch spade bit to make these holes. All right, next step. Now we're going to create the pivoting mechanism that will allow us to use this as a reverse hyper amongst other things. So what we're going to use is 3/4 inch plumbing hardware. So this is a 3/4 inch T-connector, and I have two 4-inch long 3/4 inch plumbing nipples. Okay, and I also have two washers that have a 1-inch hole in them, and they are 2 inches across. So that's all you need. That and a little pipe dope or thread locker. Okay, so we're going to assemble this right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my thread locker inside this guy right here. Just a little bit. And then just screw that right on. Okay, other side. Add the washers. And that's it. All right, next step. Now you're going to cut two more pieces of 2x4, and these are 7¼ inches long each. And then you're going to put holes right in the dead center of each one using a 1 1/8 inch spade bit. Okay, this will accommodate this guy right here. So we'll put that in there. Okay, and now this will be set back 3½ inches from the front, giving us a 1/2 inch on the back to accommodate our upholstery. All right, next step. Now you're going to cut 4 pieces of 2x4 that are 2 15/16 inch long. Okay, and they're going to go right here, flush with that edge, flush with that edge, and they are long enough so there's no interference with this plumbing nipple. And then this one goes flush with the back edge, and likewise. All right, next step. Now I'm going to show you where we're going to place all of these angle brackets. And then we're going to start gluing and screwing everything together. So you're going to need 8 of these. And these are Simpson Strong Tie A21Z angle brackets, okay? So we're going to put one right here, one right here. That'll keep that nice and secure. One right here, one right there, okay? And then these 4, they're going to go in the center right here. So this one's going to go flush to that edge. Then this one's going to go just touching the edge of that other one, leaving a gap, a slight gap between the edge of that bracket and that washer. Then over here, we're going to do the same thing. And this one's going to go slightly just away from that washer. And then this one will be touching that other bracket and be flush with that edge. Okay? Then, lastly, we have 4 more angle brackets. These are Simpson Strong Tie A23 Zulus, like that, okay? And these are going to go right here. Okay? And that's the layout. All right, next step. Now that we have our layout figured out, I'm going to start gluing and screwing everything together. So to start off, I already took the liberty of adding these guys to both pieces, okay? And to do so, I used number 8, 1 1/4 inch construction screws. So now the next step is we're going to put some glue on the bottom here, make sure this thing's centered, and then we're going to affix it to our 2x12. And again, I'll be using 1 1/4 inch construction screws. All right, next step. Now we're going to add these 4 blocks and their accompanying angle brackets. Now, here's the trick with this. You don't have to put a screw in every single one of these holes, okay? In fact, if you have any hole placement that's already close to the screws we just already put in, skip that hole. We don't want the screws to be too close together, otherwise we risk splitting the wood. Okay, so now for this, all the screws that are going down through the block and into the 2x12, I'm using 2.5 inch long number 10 construction screws. And for all the screws that are going into this block, again, I'm using 1 1/4 inch number 8 construction screws. All right, so we got these 2 done, and we'll repeat those same steps on this side. All right, next step. Now that we have this piece connected and all these wooden blocks connected, I think it's a good idea to put some more screws, at least 1 per block, going the opposite direction. Now, we don't want to put too many screws in the block because then we're likely going to split the wood. So go ahead and flip it on over, pre-drill like I've already done, and then I went ahead and just put 1 more screw into each block. Now, you should probably use lag bolts for this, but I don't have any of that length right now, so I'm using these 2.5 inch number 10 construction screws again. So 1 per block. All right, next step. Now we're going to attach these 2 end pieces, which will lock the unit onto our spotter arms or our flip down safeties or whatever we're doing. So I already put the L brackets on both of them, and we're going to mount them underneath, and we're going to use our hitch pins through the spotter arms and through these holes to make sure everything's lined up. Also, make sure that when you're doing this, the front is facing you here, and we don't have this backwards, meaning that there's a 3.5 inch gap between this front edge and that bottom unit we just installed. Okay, let's do it. We want to make sure this is nice and centered before we screw it on. And for this, again, I'll be using 1 1/4 inch construction screws. Hell yeah. All right, next step. Now we can begin optionally upholstering this guy. If you don't want to upholster, just go ahead and grab one of these. This is a balance pad, link down below to purchase. You can just throw that on there when you want to use this item. Okay? However, I am going to upholster mine, but to save money, rather than going to the fabric store and buying expensive foam, I'm actually going to upcycle this right here. Now, this is the packing material that my Rep Fitness PR5000 with Aries attachment came with. So that's why when this all arrived, it was immaculate, because Rep Fitness really packs their stuff well using this very dense, this ain't styrofoam, this is very dense foam, and it's perfect for this application. Now, ideally, you're going to use one contiguous piece of foam though. So I'm actually going to be laying mine out like so, and all these seams are in it. So to combat those seams from being spread out, if I happen to kneel or sit on those seams, I'm going to be using, number one, I'm going to spray this adhesive on the bottom, right here on the surface to adhere these foam pieces to the wood, but I'm also going to tape them together using Gorilla Tape, and I am going to be using some plastic shelf liner across the top so I have more surface area so that these seams don't spread on me when I'm using this thing, okay? So we're gonna put all this together right now. All right, that glue is now dry and we can begin adding our fake upholstery. But before I do that, and I wish I would have done this a little bit earlier, maybe one step ago, I am gonna go ahead and paint the bottom, and I'm gonna paint it black so that it blends in nicely with my black fake leather I'll be applying here in a second. So we're gonna paint it and then let it dry. All right, that paint is now dry, and now we can finish upholstering. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna flip this over, and I'm gonna add that plastic shelf liner on top. This will help protect the seams of these non-contiguous strips of padding. Okay? And now we can add our fake leather to this. Now, a upholstery gun hooked up to an air compressor is the best way of doing this. However, I don't have that and I ain't spending that money. So instead, I am going to use a staple gun with 1/2 inch 12mm T50 staples. All right, now that we have the upholstery done, and by the way, it came out exceeding my expectations. I'm very happy with the way this turned out. But now we're ready for the last step. We need to make that arm that we will affix to the underside here to allow us to do belt squats and reverse hypers, etc. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 2-foot long, 3/4 inch plumbing nipple, and we're gonna attach it to a cross. Okay, this is called a cross. Now, you can also just use a T-connector, but if you do that, you won't be able to use this for belt squats. You'll only be able to use it for reverse hypers and leg extensions. So I'm gonna be using this cross. Now what we're gonna do is, we're gonna put a little bit of thread locker in here on one of the holes. So pick the one you want. I'm gonna go right here and just put a little bit in, okay? Okay, beautiful. Now we're gonna put this 2-foot long nipple right on there, and then of course let it dry for 24 hours before using it. Okay? Just like that. Okay, and now we're gonna add 8-inch long plumbing nipples here and here. No thread locker required. All right, and now we're gonna add washers. These are washers that have a 1-inch hole in them, and they're 2.5 inches across. This will prevent your plates from going cattywampus on you when you're using the product. Now, alternatively, you can also put a little JB weld right there. If you're not going to put Olympic plate adapters out of PVC on this, this will help prevent this thing from going all crazy on you when you're taking it off and storing it on the wall. Okay, but when in use, the plates will keep the washer in place. Now we add our 3-foot long toe strap, just like this. Okay, and now optional, you can also add some plumbing nipple caps to both ends just to keep all this together so it doesn't slide off when you're adding it to the utility seat or storing it on a wall. All right, she's ready for action. And now we can exercise. However, I usually put some PVC Olympic plate adapters that I built for other similar projects in the past. But in the interest of time today, I'm just gonna use some 1-inch spring clamps. Now you can use this as a lever belt squat, but full disclosure, there's other designs out there that can hold more weight than this design, okay? This was really designed to be a reverse hyper, utility seat, leg extension, so on and so forth, which typically don't require a ton of weight. Whereas with the lever belt squat, you can totally put a ton of weight on there. So, full disclosure, don't overdo it, okay? I'm not sure that the glue and the screws are gonna hold tons and tons of weight, okay? So, but if you are interested, this is what you do, okay? Take a 3/4 inch nipple cap and take a step bit and drill a hole through it. Then put a 3/8 inch eyebolt through it, and then a nut, 2 washers, and another nut and thread locker. Then add it to a 12-inch long 3/4 inch nipple, and then add this to the hole on the end of that cross. All right, now add your weight and your belt and get to exercise it. However, one more disclosure. I would like to start at the top of the rep with this exercise, so to do so I would need to build a kickstand, which I haven't done yet, but that might be a future video. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel to be alerted the moment that that episode drops. And exercise. All right, the DIY utility seat and reverse hyper hybrid, a great addition to any home gym. Now for more details on this project, please visit designbuildlift.com. And to purchase any of the items used in today's project, or if you'd rather buy a commercial item, please consider making those purchases via the shopping links down in the video description below. Shopping via these links costs you nothing extra, and it helps support the channel. All right, that does it for this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. So, be sure to subscribe to the channel to be alerted the moment the next project drops.